Hello students, welcome back to another social studies video. We are continuing with our series on getting a grade 1 using your CXC social studies syllabus to study. And this is part 2 of that series. If you have not seen part 1, go to my channel and check out that video. So in part 2, we are continuing to look at the topic of government. Now, there are two major forms of government. We have the democracy and autocracy forms of government. Now, democracy has to do with government for the people, meaning that any decisions that the government is making for the country, for the people get a chance to get a chance to be involved in the decision making. So the people of that country that practices democracy as a form of government, they are fully involved in the decision making of the government. When we talk about autocracy, autocracy is the opposite of democracy, meaning that the people they have no say in whatever decision the government is making. All decisions are completely made by the government. So if you are given any question asking about forms of government, there are two forms, democracy and autocracy. Now, differentiate among the types of government systems in the Commonwealth Caribbean. There are three types of government systems. We have Crown Colony, Constitutional Monarchy, and the Republic type of government system. Now, what is Crown Colony? Now, when we talk about Crown Colony, that was an old British government system in which it was consisted of a governor and a council. A governor represented the crown or the monarch, which is located in the UK. Now, from Crown Colony, many countries started to adopt the constitutional monarchy type of government. When universal adult suffrage was granted, the right for people over the age of 18 years old to vote was granted to colony countries right after the Second World War. Different factors led to the urgent need for political reform, meaning that countries was asking to become independent. They wanted to be free from the British government system. Now, the British government was now willing to grant colonies independent status. Two of the first Caribbean countries to get that who got that independent status was Jamaica and Trinidad and Tobago. Jamaica became independent in 1962. So, now being independent, the government of the country now had full control over its national and international affairs without interference from the mother country. Not to say that these countries that were independent got rid of the monarch completely. Countries like Jamaica, even though we had a constitutional monarchy type of government, we still had the monarch as our head of state. The monarch was still represented by a governor general. However, the governor general had limited powers, and the real power was with the people and the members that they, the people, elected to represent them in parliament. So many independent countries, they are still referred to as constitutional monarchies type of government because the monarchy is still the head of state. And another important point to note about constitutional monarchy countries is that they refer to the leader of their government as prime minister. So, in a constitutional monarchy country, the monarch is the head of state, it's followed by the prime minister and then other government ministers. What is a republic type of government? Now, in a republic type of government, their leader is referred to as the president. In the Caribbean, there are two types of republic type of government. Guyana and Trinidad and Tobago, their government is referred to as a republic government, meaning that their leader is a head, the president of these countries is a head of state. Unlike the constitutional monarchy, where the monarch is the head of state followed by the prime minister, in Guyana and Trinidad and Tobago, the head of state is the president. So, in a republic type of government, the monarch is represented or replaced by the president. So, if you're asked what are the two types of government, you have democracy and autocracy. If you are asked about the types of government systems, they are the crown colony government system, the constitutional monarchy, and the republic government system. Continuing on the syllabus, students should be able to outline the structure of government. Now, when we talk about the structure of government, what CXC is just asking about, as we know in layman terms, is they're asking about the branches of government. What are the three branches of government? We know that the branches of government are the legislature, the executive branch of government, and the judiciary branch of government. Now we're going to look at the structure, the composition, the functions of the legislature branch of government. Now, laws are important. Can you imagine living in a country where there are no laws? Living in a country where there are no laws? Guys, there would be a lot of chaos and confusion. So we can all come to the conclusion that laws are important. Laws are important because they help to maintain peace and order in society. Now, the legislature is the body of government which makes the laws of a country. The legislature is the body of government which makes the laws of a country. Now, we have been talking about laws of a country. Say the government wants to introduce a bill, and if you're asking what a bill is, a bill is the introduction of a new law. There are certain processes that that bill will have to go through in order for it to become a law. Now, if you're asked any question about how laws are made in Parliament, I can give you a quick summary of how laws are made in Parliament. Now, a member of the House of Representatives may say, "Oh, I wish to propose a bill. Here are the reasons why I would like this bill to become a law." Secondly, the bill is then debated. So each member speaks of the strength and the weaknesses of the bill. And if there are any amendments that members think are needed to that bill before it becomes a law, the amendments are made and a vote is taken. Thirdly, a committee will then be selected to study the bill and make recommendation to the House. Fourthly, the bill is once more debated. So it comes back to Parliament, it is once more debated and voted on. If it obtains the majority of votes, it is considered to be successful. The bill is then passed to the Senate. So all the steps are taking place in the House of Representatives. So when the bill returns to the House of Representatives, it is then debated again, it is voted on again, and if it is successfully passed, it is then passed down to the Senate. The Senate will now have to debate the bill, make amendments to the bill, and vote on the bill. If it is successful, it is sent to the President or the Governor General for assent. So why is it sent to the president? If it is in a republic country like Guyana and Trinidad and Tobago, where they are doing the bill trying to pass it into a law, it is sent to the president. If it's in a constitutional monarchy country where there is a governor general or a president, it has to be sent to the governor general. So the final step of the bill, so if you get a question asking what is a final step or who has to sign off on a bill before it becomes a law, it is the president or the governor general who signs a bill into a law. So apart from making laws, other functions of the legislature would include debating the national budget, investigating situations of improper conduct by any member of parliament, debates any charge of no confidence in the ruling party which is raised by the opposition, and also to discuss national issues such as crime, flooding, unemployment, health, services, etc. So if you're asked what are three functions of the legislature, you could have the legislature makes laws, the legislature debates the national budget, and you could also have the legislature discusses national issues such as unemployment and crime. Now, the syllabus says that we should also look at the role of the opposition. So what is the role of the opposition? Now, the term opposition can be misleading in some way since it can convey the message that members are only there on the opposite side to oppose government initiatives. However, in Parliament, the role of the opposition is very clear in that the members are there not only to oppose but to support whatever initiative they see fit that is introduced by the ruling party. In Parliament, when it comes on to policies that benefit the citizens, some functions of the opposition are. So if you get a question asking you what are some of the functions of the opposition in Parliament, you can talk about members of the opposition are included when a bill goes to the committee stage for critical review. So remember, we were talking about the steps in making laws. The opposition is also critically involved in that process. So another role of the opposition is to call for a debate in Parliament on any issues which affects the population. So if the opposition thinks that crime is becoming a serious issue in the country, they can call for a debate in Parliament on that issue. Another function of the opposition is, and I'm trying to think of one that is very easy that you can remember. Yes, to ensure accountability and transparency by the ruling party. So, three functions of the opposition are to ensure accountability and transparency by the ruling party, to debate in parliament any issues which are affecting the country, and to debate on bills, policies that are laid in parliament. Now, we're going to look at the second branch of government, which is the executive. What are the functions of the executive branch of government? So the legislature makes the laws, the executive makes the policies. Now, the executive, so the syllabus says we're to look at the composition of the executive. So the executive arm of government is made up of the prime minister and other ministers who are chosen by him and appointed by the president. The various government ministries formulate policies for the day-to-day running of the country. So, in simple words or simple sentence, the executive is made up of the Prime Minister, the Minister of Education, Minister of Finance, Minister of Culture, Minister of External Affairs, Minister of Agriculture, and all the different ministries that are part of the government. They make up the executive branch of government along with the Prime Minister or the President. Now, this asks us, what's the syllabus? What are the functions of the executive to make policies? We are to look at the role of the civil service. And since I have given you the composition and the functions of the executive, I am going to give you the opportunity to do your own research on the role of the civil service. Now, we're going to go down to the judiciary branch of government. What are the structure and functions of the judiciary branch of government? So the legislature branch of government makes the laws, the executive make the policies, and the judiciary branch of government enforces the laws of the country. So it is a function of the judiciary to decide whether a person accused of breaking a law is innocent or guilty. Anyone who allegedly disobeys the laws can be brought before the court. Judges or magistrates listen to the facts of a case and pronounce the innocent or guilty of the accused. So the judiciary system is composed of the various types of courts in the Caribbean region. For example, the local courts, the privy council, the magistrate court, the Caribbean Court of Justice, and all the other courts that you can think about, they are a part of the judiciary branch of government. Syllabus is also asking us to look at judicial officials, for example, the director of public prosecution. Some other officials that comes under the judiciary would be legal officials, such as attorney generals. You could have chief justice. We have the different attorneys, the prosecutors, and all the other officials that you can think about. Now, we are to look at what are, oh my God, give me a minute, guys. Let me find this back. All right, so we are to look at what are the roles of the security system, for example, police service, the prison service, regional security service. So we're going to look at the role of the police, just in case you are asked any question relating to this. All right, the duties and responsibilities of the police service are many. So we're going to look at few. The role of the police is to regulate traffic. The role of the police is to maintain security at government buildings. The role of the police is to provide evidence in court against the accused. The role of the police is to what are we? To conduct searches in homes of people suspected of criminal activities after obtaining a search warrant. The role of the police is to visit schools and community centers to offer guidance and counseling to the population in general and to students, particularly on matters of acceptable behavior in public. And what else can we think about? Another role of the police would be police on duty at the police station to render assistance to the public. We are to look at the role of the prison service. There are basically three categories of persons who are referred to a prison. You have persons who have been convicted of criminal offenses and sentences to serve hard labor, persons in default of court orders with respect to payments of alimony, maintenance, or debts. Such persons are committed to the prisons to serve a term of simple imprisonment, which means that they are incarcerated but do not have to serve hard labor. Then we have persons who have been charged for committing offenses, have been granted bail, but have not yet obtained bail. These persons are still presumed innocent and are therefore housed in separate areas of the prison away from those serving sentences. So those are the type of people or individuals that you'll find in a prison. Now, the prison officers, they have their responsibilities. And some of these responsibilities are conduct, no, let's look at the ones that are easier for CXC. Allowing visitors to visit prisons. So relatives, friends, or lawyers can visit their person in prison. Another role of the prison officer is to safely house all categories of persons committed to the institution. Another role of the prison officer is releasing prisoners after completing their sentences in jail. Another role could be conducting executions according to law. And there are so many that you can think about. You can write those um, as your answers whenever you are sitting your CXC social studies. Oh my God, let's go back to, so where were we? All right, so those are some of the roles of the prison officers and also the role of the police in the country. Now we are going to go down and we're going to look at, guys, I hope you are learning. I know that this is a late video, but I hope you are learning something. All right, so on the syllabus, it says evaluate the functions of government. So if you're asked any question relating to the functions of government, you can put the functions into different categories. You could look at the function of economic function of the government and social services. So when we look at the economic functions of government, these include, it is a function of government to raise revenue through direct and indirect taxation, to manage the finances of the country through budgeting, to create employment opportunities, to facilitate economic development. It is another function of the government to manage, sustain the country's resources. Now, you can also look at the functions of government from social services. It is a function of the government to provide welfare and health care for citizens. It is a function of the government to ensure that public utilities, public buildings, and roads are properly maintained. It is a function of the government to maintain law and order and defend the nation. It is the function of the government to maintain international relations with other countries. So there are many functions of the government that you could write about. And we're going down nicely. Evaluate the relationship between citizens and government as stated in the Constitution. Now, relationship between citizens and government as stated in the Constitution. To look at this topic, we first need to define what is the Constitution, we need to define what is democracy, and we also need to define what is authoritarian. So I'm going to give you some time to come up with the definition for these words. All right, students, so I know you have your definitions ready. I'm going to give you the definitions in simple terms. So, Constitution contains the laws of the country. Democracy is a type of government system that, as I said before, it's government for the people. Government for the people. In a democratic country, the people are fully involved in the day-to-day operation of the country. In an authoritarian type of government, it's the opposite of democracy. It is a government that has total control of the day-to-day operation of the country. They do not involve the citizens in any form of decision making. Now, what is the relationship between citizens and government? Democracy can only work effectively and efficiently when there's cooperation between the government and the citizens. I know that you will agree with me, and it is safe to say that any initiatives of the government, they can only come to fruition, they can only bring rewards, they can only work when the citizens wholeheartedly support and work towards achieving those goals. Government have come to the realization that it doesn't matter whatever initiative, whatever rules, whatever plans they have in place, they can only come to full potential when they are guaranteed that citizens will give them their full support, when citizens have an impact in whatever plan they have. So apart from government getting citizens fully involved in whatever decisions or initiatives that they are taking, under the Constitution, government has to ensure that human rights, freedoms, and responsibilities of citizens are fully enforced. And we know what are the rights of citizens. We have the right to individual to respect for the private and family life, freedom of the press, freedom of association, freedom of thought and expression, freedom of movement, the right of the individual to equality before the law and the protection of the law, the right of the individual to life, liberty, security of the person, and enjoyment of poverty. And the list goes on. So government have to ensure that these rights of citizens, they are fully protected, the right to vote, and they are fully active. D, what are the roles of the ombudsman and other regulatory authorities? So I'm just going to look at the role of the ombudsman. You can do your research. All right, so a few of the roles of the ombudsman, and this the ombudsman is usually appointed by the president or the prime minister after consultation with the leader of the opposition. So the principal functions of the ombudsman in are sorry where a complaint is made to the ombudsman by any person allegedly that he or she has sustained an injustice as a result of a fault in administration of any public authority. So it would be the role of the ombudsman to investigate that. Another role of the ombudsman is where a member of the House of Representatives requests the ombudsman to investigate a matter on the ground that a person or body of persons specified in the request as or may have sustained an injustice at the hands of public authority. So if you are a citizen and you believe that funds that were allocated by the government to citizens were not distributed fairly, you can report it to the ombudsman. In any other circumstances in which the ombudsman considers that he ought to investigate the matter on the ground that some person or body of persons or has or may have sustained such injustice. allegedly administrative injustice or corrupt practices in the public service. So if you believe that there are some form of corruption taking place in government or by your member of parliament, you can report it to the ombudsman. Guys, I hope that you are learning from the syllabus. Remember, this series is to help us to get a grade 1 by using the syllabus to study. So we are using our past papers, but we are still incorporating the syllabus into our studying. All right, guys, if you have not yet subscribed to my channel, please do so. Please share this channel with a friend, and guys, do not forget to leave a comment and to give this video a thumbs up. Now we are still on government. Describe the systems used to elect a government in the Commonwealth Caribbean. I'm sure by now, guys, you know that there are electoral processes, and we are going to look at those electoral processes. There are two electoral systems that are used in the Caribbean. But before we look at those electoral systems, let's follow the syllabus. We have to look at the solution of parliament. So we know there's a time when parliament is dissolved and then it restarts afresh. What are the role of the election commission, electoral office? You must know who is an independent observer. You must know the role of political parties, and we are going to look at those as we go down into the syllabus. What are the responsibilities of voters? Election day, what happened at polling stations, etc. All right, so we're going to go into electoral systems. I know you guys have been learning a lot about electoral systems, so I'm just going to refresh or re-emphasize what you have been learning for the past month or more on electoral systems. All right, so the syllabus says we are to, what's the first thing we need to do? Let's go back up. All right, so we're going to look at elections. All right, guys, just a quick summary of the electoral process. So we know that in a democratic country, there are provisions in the Constitution which allow for general elections. A general election is held every 5 years. The Electoral Office Commission is the agency which exists to facilitate the electoral process. They perform different functions. So electoral office, they are the ones who determines the number of constituencies and the boundaries of each constituency within the country. It is the electoral office that maintains a register of eligible voters in each constituency by adding those citizens who have obtained the age of 18. So you know you have to be the age of 18 and over to vote. They are the ones who will delete those who have died and transferred those who have changed their residences. It is the electoral office that will publish a list of registered voters for examination by the public. The list goes on and on. But let us look at what happened after the announcement of an election date. So, say the Prime Minister announced a date for election, what happens after that? So, the Electoral Office, they will publish a list of registered voters for examination by the public. They accept nominations, so it's nomination day. Candidates, they go in and register the candidates contesting the election. The electoral office, they will print the ballot papers which reflects the names, parties, and symbols for respective candidates. So, you know, the ballot papers where you register your vote on. They will determine the number and location of polling stations. It is the electoral office that will train the staff, the poll clerks, the presiding officers, etc. will be working on who will be working on election day. After the election date have been announced, it is the electoral office responsibility to educate the public through the mass media concerning the voting process. They will also inform the electorate of the polling station assigned to them, for casting their votes. What happened on the close of the poll? So you have went in, you have cast your vote. It is the end of election day. What happened at the close of the poll? So the electoral office, they will have their representatives who will collect the ballot papers. They will tally the votes for each candidate in each constituency. They will reveal the results of the election, respond to queries of candidates who may request a recount of ballots on valid grounds, and they maintain the records and results of the election. So you see, the electoral office, they have a big role to play in government. Now we're going to look at um, what are some of the factors which determine the outcome of elections. In other words, what are some of the things that we take into consideration when deciding which party becomes victorious at the end of the closing of the poll or the end of election day? There are a number of factors which determine the outcome of elections. One of those factors we're going to look at is campaign issues. A party which can, convince the electorate, which are the voters, the citizens, that it possesses the strategies to deal with issues affecting the lives of the majority of the population, can be easily swept into power or easily win the election. So if we have a political party who is stronger in campaigning issues affecting people, talking about unemployment, crime and violence, increase in salary, education, that party is most likely to win the election. Another factor which determines the outcome of election is we have to look at the charismatic leadership. A charismatic leader is one who is bold, fearless, and articulate, possesses the power to influence voters to abandon tradition, and can sway voters to support his party. So, are you a charismatic person? Are you a people person? Do you go around house to house and interact with residents? Do you socialize with your residents? You might visit a shop in the community, sit and talk with the people, find out how they are doing. Are you a charismatic leader that can influence the outcome of the election? Another thing we have to look at is funding. When it's election time, money is important. The party which has more money at its disposal can reach larger segment of the population through press releases. Such a party has a good chance of winning a large number of seats. You have money to pay for advertisement on the mass media. You have money to travel around in communities, visit house to house, talk to residents. So money is important. So the party who has the funds to spend on the election most likely will win the election. And we're going to look at one more point. Let's look at one more point. There are many points that we can talk about, but we can't do all of them in this video. Let's look at history of performance. An electorate may not want to change a government which has a record of excellent performance. Such voters echo the sentiment: we know what we have, we don't know what we will get. So if your party is a party that has been performing for many years, it is likely that residents, electorates, they will stick with your party because, as the saying says, we know what we have, we don't know what we will get. So those are some of the factors that can influence the result of an election. All right, so the next thing we're going to look at is electoral systems. And we know that there are two electoral systems used in the Caribbean. We have the first past the post and the proportional representational system. All right, so we're going to start with the first past the post electoral system, which is used in the Caribbean. Now, on election day, each citizen who is 18 years of age and over is eligible to cast a vote for the candidate of his or her choice. Now, after the election, the votes are counted. At the close of the poll, the votes are counted. The candidate who gets the most votes in each constituency becomes a member in the House of Representatives. So this is a first past the post system. The candidate who gets the most votes in each constituency becomes a member of government. The member who commands a majority support in the House of Representatives becomes the Prime Minister. So first past the post, at the end of election, they count all the votes and the candidates in each constituency that gets the most votes, they become the member of parliament. The party that has the most candidates winning their seat in their constituency become the government. Then they choose their prime minister. Now, the the candidates are the party, the losing candidate or the losing party, they form the opposition. So the ruling party, as I said before, they appoint ministers for different ministries. So we have Ministry of Health, Education, Finance, Agriculture, etc. So the winning member of parliament, the one that won their seats in their constituencies, will be assigned um, the head of the various ministries. I know I saw this question before on a paper where it asks how many senators and how many senators are in the upper house and the lower house. So after the position of prime minister and leader of opposition have been filled, one of the matters to receive attention is the nomination of members to the Senate or upper house. So another name for the Senate is the upper house. The Prime Minister nominates 16 members from among members or supporters of his own party to the Senate. These people are therefore referred to as government senators. The leader of the opposition nominates 6 members from among supporters of his party, known as the opposition senators. So the House of Representatives, the Senate, and the President or Prime Minister together comprises Parliament, which is the lawmaking agency in the government of the country. Now we're going to look at proportional representation. But before we look at proportional representational system, we have to look at the advantages and disadvantages of the first past the post system. Then we're going to look at the proportional representational system. Now, two advantages of the first past the post system is that this system improves the chance of one political party gaining majority of seats, thus forming the ruling party. Another advantage of the first past the post system is the process of voting and the counting of the votes for each candidate and the number of seats gained by each party are relatively simple. Thus, elections are conducted without major problems and the results can be released within hours of the closing of the poll. One disadvantage of the first past the post system is This discourages the formation of parties which may be interested in pursuing the valid concerns of minority groups interested in women's rights or the promotion of culture or constitutional reform. Such groups have slim chances of forming the government. So, under the first past the post system, it is usually a two-party system. If you have a third party, there is a very slim chance that they will ever get a chance to form the government. Now we're going to look at the proportional representational system and what that system is. Proportional representational system, students, is a system that is used in Guyana. Guyana differs from most Caribbean countries in that their constitution allows the use of proportional representation instead of the first past the post system in forming their government. Proportional representation is the representation of all parties in the legislature in proportion to their popular vote. It is a democratic system and any number of parties can contest the elections. On election day, the electors vote for the party of their choice. After the votes are counted, the seats in the legislative body are distributed in proportion to the number of votes cast for the various party. So, for example, if they had three parties contesting the election, Party A, they receives 20% of the total vote on election day. Party B received 50% of the vote, and Party C received 30% of the vote. Then Party A will have to choose 20% of their total number of parliamentarians in the legislature. Party B will have to choose 50% and Party C 30% of their representative to be a part of parliament. It is also important to note that Guyana has a unicameral legislature that is consisted of only one house in parliament called the National Assembly. So we don't have any opposition party. We have one house which is consisted of representatives from the different parties that contested the election. So if 50 party contested the election under the proportional representational system, they are assigned seat in government or in parliament based on the percentage of vote that they receive. Unlike the first past the post system where you only usually have two parties and the party that wins the most vote, they are the government, the other party from the house of the opposition. So PR, all the parties that contested, they get a chance to be a part of the government. Advantages and disadvantages of proportional representation. The system of proportional representation ensures that each party contesting the election has a good chance of having representatives in parliament. So, as we said before, every party that contests the election, once you receive some percentage of vote, you are able to be a part of the government. In the PR, the entire country is considered a single constituency. There are therefore no safe seats or marginal seats, as in the first past the post system. Voters therefore see the importance of their votes in what is viewed as a single seat and do not consider going to the poll as a waste of time. Voter participation is therefore high under the system of PR, which is a good thing for democracy. Disadvantage of the PR system is that obtains in Guyana, political parties publish their list of candidates without letting the electorate know how they are ranked for selection of the legislature. This allows party leaders to choose candidates who are more loyal to the leader as against those who show loyalty to the country. In the PR system, another disadvantage is voters have no choice of who their representative in the legislature will be. They may be saddled with ones who may have a history of poor performance in the past. This weakens the relationship between the electorate and the representative in the legislature, leading to disappointment. All right, guys. So both system has their advantages and their disadvantages. All right, still on the syllabus. Evaluate how political parties prepare for elections. So preparing for elections, they have to establish a party structure. So political parties have to ensure that they have a chairperson, a secretary, executive, constituency branches, etc. Each political party will select candidates to represent them in the election. The political parties have to ensure that they have funding. We spoke about funding earlier and how important that is to election. Political parties have to conduct campaigns using different forms of communication. So we did speak about them in going the candidates going house to house, visiting different shops in the communities to socialize with residents. So they have to put out flyers, they have to use the mass media to advertise, they have to use social media, they have to have political rallies where all the supporters of the party from all over the country they will gather at one place to to talk about election. They have to commission public opinion polls to get the views of citizens on different topics. They will have pollers who will put out information about which candidate voters think are more charismatic, which candidates are leading, and all that. And they have to develop a manifesto. So, a manifesto is just a plan that outlines the goals and objectives of the parties, what they hope to accomplish in the next 5 years, what they hope to improve on in the next 5 years while they are in office. And we're going down nicely. Students should be able to distinguish among facts, opinions, and propaganda. So, facts are verifiable information, evidence. You can verify the information given. Opinions, these are just specific perspective on a topic or issue, may use emotional appeals to persuade. So opinion, that's just your view on a topic. Propaganda relies on emotions and values to persuade. It focuses on its own message without considering other positions. When we talk about propaganda, it relies on biases and assumptions and may distort or alter evidence to make the case and ignore the consequences of accepting a particular position. Guys, please follow your syllabus closely because you will see these same topics coming out in the form of questions on your exam paper. All right, guys, please remember to leave a comment and to like this video and to subscribe if you have not yet do so. All right, so let's go down to where we know students should be able to outline the factors that influences the outcomes of election. And we did look at some factors that would influence the outcome of election: media coverage, campaign advertising, public opinion polls, voters' ability to analyze information, voter turnout, and voter turnout has to do with the age. So you can't have children following you around on your campaigns. They cannot vote. It has to do with education, party loyalty, candidates, voter attitude, economic status, and personal motivation. It also has to do with the outcome of election. Is also influenced by national issues and how different parties address them, and campaign spending. How much money are you willing to spend on your campaign? All right. Then we are to identify the characteristics of good governance. Good government characteristics are: a good government is transparent. A good government is accountable. They are responsive to the needs of citizens. They service the greater goods of citizens. Good government, they are efficient civil service. They have a willingness to engage in consultation, tolerance, of freedom of expression, creativity, and innovative. And good government, they are independent of judiciary and they are very participative. They're inclusive in what is happening within the country. Students should be able to identify the characteristics of good citizenship. Are you a good citizen? If you are a good citizen, some of your civic duties includes active participation, especially in general elections, respect for human rights, law-abiding, environmentally conscious, well-informed. Are you a citizen who embrace healthy lifestyle practices, show concern for others, and you are very productive and patriotic? So those are the characteristics of good citizenship. And we are going down nicely, guys. We are at section B. So we are finally finished with section A of the syllabus, and we are at sustainable development and use of resources, section B. All right, so let's see what the syllabus has for us. Students should be able to describe the characteristics of a population. If you are asked to describe the characteristics of a population, your answers should include things like the age and sex structure. Is it that we have a younger population, an older population? You have to look at occupation, how many people are working, ethnicity. Do we have more blacks, white, Hispanic, Indian, religion? Dependency ratio, how many people do we have depending on others in the household? Life expectancy, what is the expected age an individual is expected to live in Jamaica? I think it's 75 years old. We have to look at the mortality rates, how many people we have dying, comparing to how many are still alive. We are to look at spatial distribution, birth rate, how many babies do we have born per year in 1,000. Um, we have to look at health, education, income level, and employment status to talk about the characteristics of our population. Going down nicely. Students should be able to identify the sources and uses of population statistics. So we know that a census is done every 10 years. In a census, um, the workers will collect information on birth, deaths, marriages, religious institution, immigration, customs. Why do we need to conduct censuses every 10 years? For future planning related to elections, we have to know voters who have passed away, those are still alive, so those who have reached the age of 18 and are eligible to vote now. We have to know about the housing situation in our country so that we can plan for that. Healthcare, education, employment, social welfare, infrastructure, industrial development. We have to know information about the population control so we can plan for the future, sustainable development, and management of resources. Determine the relevance of specific population statistics to planning for development. Statistics such as employment status, education level, occupation. So whenever we have the census workers come into your houses to ask you about employment status, how many people in your household are working, how many are unemployed, how many are underemployed, what is the education level of different individual living in your house, what are their occupation, why do they need this information? Well, they need the information to get a population profile. They need the information to plan and make more efficient decisions. For example, when it comes on to elections, as I said before, those in your household which have reached the age of 18 years old, they are ready to vote. We need to know about what are some of the things that political parties can speak about in their manifestos in terms of housing, occupation, education. We need to know about housing, healthcare. Do we need more resources in our healthcare system? Do we need more resources in education? Do we need to have more jobs available for citizens? Social welfare, what are some of the things that we can introduce as a government to help citizens to, improve their standard of living? And we're going down. Students should be able, okay. So why do we need the information about from the census? Why do we need to know about your educational status? Why do we need to know about um occupation, those who are employed in your household, those who are not? Another reason is so that we can know which areas, sectors need attention. Is it that we need to focus on the educational sector more? Is it that we need to focus on education? And we also need this information to improve the delivery of social services, help with transparency and accountability of government spending. Examine the factors influencing population distribution and density. Now, population distribution and density. What is population distribution and what is population density? Now, the density of population is the average number of people living on every square kilometer in a country. Now, what are the factors that influence where people are distributed across the country, where people live across the country, and the average number of people living on every square kilometer in a country? What are some of the factors that determine that? And we're going to put these factors into different categories as the syllabus does. So the syllabus put it into physical factors, human factors, and oh yes. So the syllabus look at physical and human factors. Now, if you're asked what factors influence population distribution and density, you can talk about climate. How does climate influence population distribution and density? Now, there is a higher concentration of people in areas where climate is hospitable. Would you want to live in a place where it is always cold? Would you want to live in a place where it's always hot? Well, I would choose to live in a place where the climate is hospitable. People avoid living in areas where it is too cold or too hot. Thus, desert areas and freezing temperatures are avoided. In the Caribbean, there are no such wide variation of temperature. However, those parts where rainfall is heavy, resulting in dense forests and sparsely populated, the concentration of people is heavier on the leeward side of these countries where rainfall and vegetation do not inhabit settlement of people. So, in simple words, people prefer to live in climate that are hospitable. You will not find a lot of people living in places where the climate is always too cold or where the climate is always too hot. All right. Another physical factor that influences the population distribution and density, or let's look at, do you want us to look at location of natural resources? I know that it is safe to say that people tend to live in areas where certain comforts are afforded. We want to ensure that we're living in places where there are availability of water, we have fertile land. If you are into agriculture, you want to ensure that the soil is good where you are living. You want to ensure that there are minerals, there are medical facilities, etc. So you will not find a lot of people living in areas where certain things that are needed for your comfort are not available. Now, if we look at human factors, let's see what we can look at here. People tend to live in areas that have industries, agriculture, accessibility to transportation, infrastructure, example, roads, electricity, and social services. You will not want to live somewhere where the road is poor, you can't travel as you wish to. Your cars and your vans and your trucks, they are being damaged because of poor roads. You don't want to live in an area where there is no electricity. There are no social services, example, health facilities, educational facilities. No, you'll not want to live in areas like that. So, if you are asked on your CXC social studies, what are the factors influencing population distribution and density, you can talk about these physical factors and human factors. The syllabus asks us students should be able to explain how different factors influences population change. Now we have to know what are the factors that influences population change. Birth rate. If you have a lot of babies being born, that can change the population. So if the population was 5 million, but you have a lot of babies being born in 2024, you know that the number will go up. Death rate, if the population was 5 million, but you have few people dying in 2024, the population will go down. Migration, if you have in 2023, 9,000 people migrating from country A, we know that the population will go down. If we have 5,000 people migrating to country A, then the population will go up. All right, so birth rate, death rate, and migration are factors that influences population change. Birth rate, fertility rate, infant mortality, life expectancy, and death rate. Healthcare, nutrition, hygiene, access to family planning methods, government policies, income and education level, epidemics, pandemics, and natural disasters. These are some of the factors also that affects population change. In accepting or rejecting family planning methods and healthy lifestyles contributing to the formation of government policies. All right, migration. Net migration, immigration minus emigration, internal migration, rural, urban, urban, rural migration. So you have people migrating from rural areas to urban areas and also from urban to rural areas. Inter-regional migration, these are people who migrate between countries of the region. So you're migrating from Jamaica to Trinidad and Tobago, from St. Kitts to Guyana. External migration, from the region to other parts of the world, you're migrating from Jamaica to Canada, from Guyana to the UK. Forced involuntary migration. So these are the type of migration. Forced migration, you are forced to leave your country, you because of war, natural disasters, etc., human rights issues, so you're forced to leave your country. Seasonal migration, this would be, you can remember the farm workers if you don't remember what seasonal migration is. So you'll migrate to another country for 6 months for purposes of business or work, and then you will return to your country after the 6 months. All right, birth rate, the number of birth. This says calculate demographic rates. Oh, so you have to know how to calculate birth rate, which is the number of birth in a country. So birth rate is calculated by, and just to look at some of the calculations, then you can do the others for homework. So birth rate is the number of birth in a country times 1,000 over the population. Death rate is the number of death in a country times 1,000 over the population, and the rest you can do for your research. Select an appropriate, all right, so we don't need that. That has to do with your SBA. And guys, we are using the newly revised syllabus to help us study for our CSEC Social Studies examination. All right. So let's go down. We are not looking at our SBAs now. Students should be able to examine the causes and consequences of migration. Cause of migration, we know that we classify that under two headings, push and pull factors. For example, what are some of the factors that would push you to migrate to another country? Pull factors, what are the things that are attracting you to migrate into a country? Push factors would be examples such as crime, unemployment. What else could be a push factor? Crime, unemployment, help me students, natural disasters, poor educational, health, housing, and recreational facilities, political instability, high cost of living, natural disasters, all those are push factors that would cause you to migrate to another country. Now, when we look at pull factors, we are looking at high wages, high standard of living, many educational opportunities, low levels of crime, attractive social security benefits, employment opportunities. What are some of the good things that are happening in the other countries that you'd want to pull you to those countries to migrate? We call those pull factors. What are the consequences of migration to the individual? So, as an individual, how does migration affects you? Look at the consequences. We can look at brain drain. So we have skilled persons migrating. So if we have teachers migrating from Jamaica to another country, to the US or to Canada, brain drain will definitely affect the country the migrants are coming from. We can look at good things, remittances. So when you migrate and send back money to your families back home, that helps to build the country and your families and improve your family's standard of living. We can look at cultural diversity. So when you migrate to another country, you carry along with you your culture. So you introduce it to your new friends, your families overseas in the country that you have migrated to. And we can look at employment and unemployment. So when you migrate, you left a spot at your workplace where someone else who was unemployed can fill that spot. Um, what else? We can look at, we did look at remittances already. um, Overpopulation. If you have too many people migrating into a particular country, that can result in overpopulation. If you have um, underpopulation, meaning that a lot of people have left that country and no one is coming in, so that can be a cause. Um, yeah, migration is a very easy topic, so we don't have to dwell too much on that. Examine the reasons for migration from Caribbean countries. Reasons for migration from the Caribbean to Panama, UK, US, Canada, Australia, you name the country. Unemployment. So Caribbean migrants, they are trying to find unemployment. Maybe they are migrating because of natural disasters. They are migrating because of better educational opportunities, better medical treatment and social services. And many are just refugees who are trying to seek asylum because of political, economic, safety, and security reasons. Examine the global impact of migration from the Caribbean. Impact of migration from the Caribbean on the host country. So the host country will be the country that the migrants are going to. The supply country would be the country that they're coming from. So how does migration affects the host country in terms of the economy? Well, it definitely will build their economy in some ways, because when migrants, especially those that are able to work legally, they will be contributing taxes to their economy. Spread of Caribbean culture. because you're going to meet new people. You can introduce your culture to your workplace, to your friends, to families. Wherever you go, you can spread your Caribbean culture. In Jamaica, Jamaicans, when we migrate, we often spread the way of preparing our oxtail. We spread the Jamaican patties. We talk about our Creole, you know, and people tend to learn a lot about our culture. And yeah, you can do your research, guys. We don't want to make this video too long. Explain the needs for developing human resources. When we talk about human resources, we are talking about the skills, talents, and abilities of humans. We need to develop human resource so that we can have productive workers. We can have creative and critical thinking and problem solving skills. So if we spend money, the government spend money in education, the work environment to develop human resources, we will have more productive workers, workers who are creative, workers who are critical thinkers, and workers who are able to solve problems. Explain the factors that contribute to the development of human resource. All right, so we have many factors that contributes to the development of resources, human resources, and we're going to look at a few of these. And the first factor that we're going to look at that will help to develop humans, their abilities, their talents, and their skills is nutrition and health. So we all can agree that a healthy person may be described as one whose physical, mental, and emotional capacities are not affected by any ailments or deficiencies. There is a direct relationship between a healthy nation and its productive capacities. It is for this reason that many governments across the world are concerned with developing and maintaining a healthy population. So, in order, we see that many governments are emphasizing the need for proper nutrition, and they are talking about availability and access to proper health care, because we know that in order to have a functional productive society, we must have people who are healthy and productive. All right, so we're going down to the availability of and access to primary and curative health care as one of the things that, one of the factors that can be used to develop human resource. We know that there are two types of health care. We have primary or preventative and secondary or curative health care. Primary health care has to deal with systems that prevent sicknesses, that prevents diseases from happening. And some of the ways that we can prevent ailments under primary health care is through education. We can educate parents, especially females, about breastfeeding. We can educate people about the importance of portable drinking water. We can educate them about immunization and vaccination. And we can educate people about the importance of having a balanced diet and exercising. Under secondary or curative, which deals with curing, so you have some disease or some ailment, so we have to find ways now how to cure that disease or that ailment that you have. This can be done through um, administering of medication. We can look at surgery, performances of curative surgery. It could be the importance of maintaining health centers and mental institutions that deal with curing diseases. And we're going to look at education. All right, so how can education help in the development of human resources? Let's look at recreation. We're at education. Why am I talking about recreation? We are at education, guys. I know this is a long video, but we're getting there. Education. Human beings, we are born with certain innate skills, talents, and abilities. The main aim of education is to tap these resources in individuals and develop them to the fullest potential. Our educational system, with several levels from kindergarten to tertiary, caters for the intellectual, physical, social, emotional, and spiritual development of the individual. So, it is always said that we should be lifelong learners. So, education does not just stop when you obtain your doctorate or your master's. Human beings, we're always lifelong learners. We are always trying to find ways how to improve our skills, our abilities, and our talents. All right, and we know that there are various education institutions available for us to do so. All right, and we're going down nicely. Students should be able to explain the factors that influences employment, unemployment, and underemployment. Factors that influence employment, underemployment, and underemployment are availability and use of capital, availability of trained human resources, level and range of skills demanded versus those availability and creation of markets, trading patterns and preferences, level of technology available in relation to resource development and technological advances, economic downturn, recession, gender unemployment, and these are some of the things that you can talk about when you are writing about employment, unemployment, and underemployment. Outline employment and career opportunities in different industries. So we know the different industries, and we're going to look at the first of four, which is the primary industry. What are some of the careers and opportunities that are available in this industry? Primary industry has to do with extracting raw materials, so like agriculture, fishing, and mining. So when you get the crops or harvest your crops, when you go fishing, you have fishes. When you dig land for mining, what do you do with those raw materials? And now we're going to look at secondary industry, which has to do with manufacturing and construction. So anything that deals with turning raw materials from the primary industry into goods or services, we refer to that as secondary industry. Then we have the tertiary industry, which provides a service. Example, tourism, teaching, medical, banking services, all of those will come under tertiary services. Identify the location of the major natural resources in the Caribbean. All right, so location of major natural resources, we have renewable and non-renewable resources. Example of renewable resources: agricultural land, water, forests, marine and land life, solar energy, wind, geothermal. Those are all examples of renewable resources, meaning that they can be replenished, they can be reused. All right, let's go down to non-renewable resources: cannot be reused, cannot be replenished: petroleum, bauxite, gold, diamond, other minerals. And we're going down nicely, guys. We are at, let me see, describe the uses of the major natural resources found in the Caribbean. So what do we use agricultural land for, which is a renewable resource? So we use land for farming, infrastructure. What else do we use land for? We use land for marine life. We use the forests and there are various functions of the forest for resources. The forest is used to provide lumber, mineral resources, bauxite, petroleum. We use those to make things for export. Now, types of tourism products. Let me see what the syllabus says. We use natural resources for tourism products. Example, sun, sea, sun, nature. We use it for alternative energy, for solar, wind, geothermal, hydroelectricity, which we get from our rivers, especially in Guyana. Examine the effects of proper and improper practices on the environment and the population. Alright, guys, I think I'm going to stop right here. It's a very long syllabus. We cannot complete the syllabus in one go. Um, Guys, pick up where we left off. Use your syllabus to assist you in getting that grade 1 that you so rightfully deserve. Guys, please remember to like, share, leave a comment on this video, watch the ads in order to support this channel. Guys, I'm going to see if I can do a part 3 of the syllabus. Hopefully it's not too late before CXC. All right, thank you guys for watching so much.